So we're now live. Hello, everyone, and hello, Jackie. Today I'm joined by Jacquie Moses, who is a dear friend, colleague, somebody I was fortunate to meet last year, who has helped me by her presence. We could share a lot in the HSE coaching school about how to grow a business. But the reason why we sit here today is because Jackie has a body of knowledge and a body of experience that most other people do not have around teaching and facilitating teachers and facilitators, really helping people to become better coaches, better leaders, better facilitators in the practice, something that we call and understanding the three principles. And we just talked about, you might speak to this a little bit. Today, we're going to have a conversation about what helps coaches in your experience, what helps facilitators in your experience to become ultimately better at what they do and build better relationships with their clients and with the people that they're serving. But before that, apart from the heads up that I just gave, I would love to give the word over to you, Jackie. Just tell us a little bit about where you're coming from, maybe a short bio introduction for anyone who doesn't know you and sees this interview.
Thank you, Moritz. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you for inviting me.
You're most welcome.
I've been a coach 20 years. I came across coaching in 1999. It's a long time ago. A friend said to me, "This is you." And I was like, "What do you mean?" She said, "Look into this. This is what you do." I had no language for what I did. And sometimes as professionals, we've been doing this a long time. Before we even put a title or got a qualification for it, there was something in our being that we were sharing with the world. And we didn't see it, but other people did. So this person, I remember her name was Hazel. She used to she used to support me in my marketing business. And she said, "This is you." And so I looked into it and I thought, oh my God, this is me. So I got myself a coach, looked into it a little bit more, started working with a coach in 1999, 2 coaches, I remember. And then I said, I want to do this. This is me. And I hear this so often from coaches and therapists. They just know, they maybe have been in a career before and they come across, or they've had coaching or therapy and they know this is what I would like to retraining, or they come out of college and uni and that's another transition where they kind of know very early on. I didn't know it very early on. I never knew exactly what I wanted to do, but I always knew it was with people. So if I fast forward, I've done many courses and qualifications and too many. And I've worked with thousands of people, right, in groups. I used to work with a team called Entrepreneurs in Action, and we used to go into schools, helping young people develop skills around business, but really building their confidence so that they could, if they weren't academic, they could actually see that they're really quite creative, or either they had the gift of the gab and they could be the salesman in the team, or the marketer, or the designer, or the really good with money, really helping young people find skills that they were good at. Throughout my life, I've really been coaching men and women, but mainly women, because I find women are normally the ones that come forward with a lot of personal development, unless it's around the business side. But I've been coaching men and women when I first started off, it was around confidence, really helping people rediscover their confidence, because I think confidence is innate, but also we lose it along the way. As children, we bounce around, we're confident, we've got all these things that we want to do. I used to want to be a police officer, and then along the way, those dreams and goals and the confidence that we have kind of starts to disappears. That was really a lot of my work, coaching around confidence building, and then business coaching. I did a lot of business coach training. I trained as a business coach and then did a lot of business coach training. Then in 2012, I came across an understanding, which you've mentioned, the 3 principles. It's also known as the inside-out understanding, and it really had a profound effect on me. I was struggling with stress, feeling not good enough. And on the outside, I looked good, and my feet were like a duck paddling underneath. Had that kind of feeling stressed, not knowing what to do. Doing great work with my clients, but for me, there was a disease, a discomfort, and this understanding really gave me a paradigm to explain what was happening. And since coming across this understanding, I've trained, this was 10 years ago, I trained to be a practitioner, and I've been sharing that ever since. So yes, that's a little bit about myself.
Wow.
Yeah, and I've trained and coached practitioners, just everyday people like myself. And then also I've been able to have opportunities to work in prisons, schools, in organizations, with CEOs, with trained well-being practitioners, trained some of the men in prison to be mentors, and then become facilitators. And outside of prison, I've also worked with another team where we train well-being ambassadors in organizations with this understanding, with the basis of this understanding, the fundamentals of this understanding. And what this understanding is looking at how human beings, everybody, myself included, you included, creates their lived moment-to-moment experience. We take for granted our experience. We overlook much of our experience, but we hear things, we sense things, we feel things, and we overlook a lot of our everyday experience. And this helps us really get present to our lived experience, and that life is created, our experience is created from the inside out, not what it looks like, from the outside in. Okay? So I'll give you an example. I could be driving. I'll use myself as an example. Say I'm driving and someone cuts me off in traffic and I get really annoyed. In that moment, it looks like I'm annoyed because that person cut me up on the road. Maybe caused me to crash or, really stop quickly and really be concerned about who could hit me at the back, right? So it's a good enough scenario. But in that moment, if I'm angry or get annoyed or get frustrated or irritated, whatever emotion is evoked, it looks like, without this understanding, or when I forget this understanding, because we're in and out of this, that the person who cut me up is the reason why I'm angry or irritated or frustrated. The truth is, I am angry or frustrated because of something. There's an invisible factor happening, which I can't see. We all have an operating system that's happening behind the scenes of our experience, of our mind. And what's happening is I'm annoyed because of the thinking now that's going through my mind because of how I got cut up. That could have caused an accident that was dangerous. How dare they do that to me? How dare they disrespect me? Are they crazy? You know the stuff that goes on. We have this narrative running in the background, 100 degrees. We don't even know there is a narrative there. Sometimes we're aware of it. And so it's that narrative that is at play, which is the missing piece hidden from our view that creates our experience in the moment. And so why is that important to see that? Because we don't have control of other people or things or circumstances. All we have is our experience. And so when we look to our experience, and there's nothing wrong with having any emotion. All emotions are valid and welcome, where I come from, the work that I do. What we're talking about is an understanding that explains how it's created, how it happens. Another example, 5 of us could be walking home from a night out and something happens, we see an incident. All 5 of us will have a different experience of what happens. Is it the incident? So if it was the incident that was creating our feelings, or what happened that was creating our feelings, we'd all have the same feelings and experience. So it can't be that. 100% it would be everybody that saw that incident, us 5 and everybody else that saw it would have the same experience. We don't. We have different experiences. We have, because it filters through our perception and our conditioning, and we have different experiences. That's how we work as human beings. Knowing that, it's not that incident that happened. It's my thinking. It's the invisible thinking or the narrative or what's going on in my mind that is creating my thinking, my feelings in the moment, or my experience in the moment. You might be having a bodily sensation as well. Mm-hmm. It's not just emotions. Maybe scared, maybe worried, maybe concerned. Someone might not be bothered. There's a variation of experience that can occur. And so the implications for this, or, understanding this, is that we start to have more awareness, start to bring more awareness to ourselves and what's happening for us in the moment, and having a knowing where that's coming from. Like that's coming, my feelings or my experience in this moment are coming from my thinking. It's like you practice it. It's not an intellectual understanding, it's insight led. So you've got to see something for yourself around this. I've worked with hundreds of people with this understanding, hundreds. And I know for certain that when people see this for themselves, something shifts for them and they realize they can have more freedom. They get more clarity. I like to use this. They feel more connected to themselves. Mm-hmm. They're not afraid of their emotions so much. In society, we've been taught that it's not okay to have certain emotions or certain experiences, internal experiences. And when we do have them, we can feel quite ashamed. or embarrassed. And all we want to do is get rid of them. They shouldn't be here. I shouldn't have these feelings anymore. Done enough work on myself, done enough courses, been to therapy. I'm a therapist or I'm a coach. I shouldn't be having these feelings. Right? With this understanding, the more we explore, it's an exploration, it's a self-inquiry. And I continue to do it for myself. People start to be kinder to themselves when they're having just normal human experiences. There's more humanity and love for their humanness. And it frees them up, like they have more, their minds, they have less thinking. Their mind slows down and they have less thinking that's kind of limiting them. And it opens up space for more creativity, being more innovative, for that wisdom that's always there to just kind of come through, to inform them, to guide them, like an inner GPS is guiding them through life. And you're able to trust yourself a bit more.
Yeah, Jackie, I love that introduction. I love what you said about the understanding of the principles. I want to bring it to the focus of this conversation. And many of the people that are going to watch this are coaches or therapists or some sort of in a helping profession. I wonder, is what you touched on right now, is that what you talk about with facilitators and leaders? Or what are the elements that you explore with them? And how do you see them helping them?
It is what I touch on, but before I even start working with someone, I want to give you the place that I come from. Right? And this is what I learned from this understanding, from being in this understanding and then becoming trained to share it with people. It was a huge shift for me. As a coach and someone that used to support people, and I used to think this about myself as well, I thought that I needed to fix people. My job was to help people. My job is to fix them. They're troubled. Let me help them navigate life a lot easier. And I had a huge shift. And the shift was that no one actually needs my help. And the reason for that is every human being has 100% access to innate well-being, their own innate well-being. When I mean well-being, that means clarity of mind, a deep sense of feeling okay, even when life isn't okay. Even when stuff is not working out the way you want, or you might not feel great, you can be okay with how you are in the moment. A deep sense of resilience. There's an inbuilt resilience. So I believe everyone has this, born with it. We are designed with this. We don't need to go outside of ourselves to find it or get it. We are enough as we are. So that's the place that I come from when I'm working with anyone. So from that place, that deeper place, I'm really interested in having a conversation with people that has them explore where they think their experience is coming from and looking to see where they see where it is coming from the inside out, and where sometimes there are gaps and they're thinking it's coming from outside of themselves. When I'm working with practitioners, I actually like working with practitioners because practitioners and coaches and therapists, they're people that want to make a difference in the world. They want to bring change and transformation to the world. But they're also human beings. And as human beings, there's an invitation and an opportunity to bring more awareness to who we are as practitioners. And that's what I see my role as, holding a space for individuals to bring their own humanity, things that they're dealing with. And through our conversations, they get to see where they're seeing life from the inside out and where they're not seeing life, where they think life is happening to them. So once we've kind of laid the foundation, they know that they are innately well.
Yeah.
They don't need fixing. They are enough. We have that as that's the starting point.
Yeah.
They get a sense of that for themselves. Even if it's still at the beginning, but just get a sense of that. Okay, I'm okay. It's like I normalize, help whoever I'm working with. I said, most of my work is just normalizing emotions. People have so many emotions. They're so ashamed, embarrassed, and especially practitioners and coaches, they think they shouldn't have certain feelings. And we get to be in a conversation where we can just normalize that. This is okay. What is it that you want to create? What is it that how do you want to make a difference? And what is stopping you? And then there are some skills to go along with that. So if we're looking at who the person is, and then there are skills that I look at. So one of the skills that I think makes the biggest difference is listening, really listening, and becoming aware of who are you listening to. Are you listening to the person in front of you, or are you listening to your mind and what it's telling you should be doing, they should be doing? Have we got enough time left? We've just got this narrative going on, we forget sometimes, and it's just, whenever that's really loud, then we're not listening. They're not available. They're not present. This is not like there's something wrong. It's just something to become aware of. I was never listening. I thought I was the best listener in the world. I did. I was really shocked when I was like, I don't listen. I'm not listening. I thought this was listening. Yes, it's a level of listening. There's a listening where you hear what people are saying and you hear what they're not saying.
Yeah. Wow. I could so relate to what you're saying. Like when I did my coach training in the beginning, I was becoming highly aware of the level of listening that I usually brought, which was understanding what the person says and then my interpretation of that. So I listen more to my own voice in my head than to what the other person was truly saying, right? So there were so many different layers of listening that we can get to. The more we slow down, the more we let go of whatever I want to bring into the conversation as a coach, or like the wisdom that I want to share, or if I want to give point the person to a certain thing that I heard, right? But they're not even finished with sharing the story, but I already draw my conclusion. I loved everything you shared. What I also heard in that was before you go into creating technique or like sharing technique or any skills, I'd say you actually explore who are you? Like, what are you listening from? Where are you coming from? Who are you being as a practitioner right now? Like, is there any layer of yourself that you're not okay with that you bring into the conversation? Think, oh, I shouldn't feel this. I shouldn't be nervous in a conversation. I shouldn't feel out of balance. And I know that for me, when I got into the principles, people started saying to me, you're so confident. You seem so confident when you're sharing and stuff. So you never get nervous. And I said, like, hell, I get nervous all the time. Right? The only difference is I don't listen to it anymore. It's there. It can be there. I can feel uncomfortable in my body and it doesn't have to mean anything. And that, I believe, has massively improved my own ability as a coach or facilitator. Like when I run groups, there's always something unsettling my mind. It's like, oh, I don't know if this person's listening. They look so bored and right? Love that. And what have you found? And I know that recently we both went through the coaching school, right? So you help facilitators and practitioners. But I wonder if you have seen a connection between what you just talked about and people that are currently building their practice or maybe getting started or even already run a coaching practice since a while and they want to bring it to the next level. Like, how is what we just explored helping them in doing that?
So much in there, really. It's in everything. Because whatever we're doing, we're there. We're right in the middle of it.
Gonna be the tagline, man. What you just said. Wherever
whatever we're doing, whatever we're creating, it starts with us and we're there.
Yeah.
It's the foundation to everything. It really is. It's a journey and an unfolding, right? Because I'll tell you what I've learned. Some of the big things that I've learned is as human beings, we have the potential, infinite potential to do anything, really, so many things. And if we go back to the source of who we are consciousness. We are, at the heart of who we are. We're consciousness, we're love, we're this blank space to do anything that can create anything. And one of the things that gets created in that space is the idea of who we think we are. We've got so many different ideas of who we are and who we think we are, or what we think we can do. So, one of mine was, I can't do this now. I've got too old. I've been doing this for 20 years. It's not much is going to happen now because I've been doing it so long. Nothing's going to change. Can I say something here just to charm into what you said? I also know the other thing, like, oh, I'm too young. I'm too young for this, and I just recently had a conversation with a younger coach and she's like, oh, this thing, like, I'm too young to be taken seriously and stuff. Right. Yeah. Right. And that was ringing around in my mind for some years now because I've tried so many different things in terms of building my practice to where I wanted it to go. And I didn't actually realize it was there. So we build these identities about ourselves and then we forget that we've got them running in the background. So they're just like recordings running in the background with all these narratives, and that we create these identities and then they have a whole story and narrative that go with them. So what went with my one was, I'm too old, I can't do it. It's for young people now. They've got more energy than me. I'll just continue doing what I'm doing. And what I've seen is that's absolute crap. None of it's true, but I didn't even realize it was running that strongly in the background. So firstly, identifying the stories and beliefs and ideas of who you think you are and what you think you can do. And that's a lot of my work. when I'm working. And I love that. And because I've had so many of those running, and I still continue to, but because I've had so many of those stories running and I've started to burst the bubble of those stories, I feel I'm really well placed to hold that space for others because it's made up. And this is what we're talking about when I say we create our experience in the moment through the mental activity, the mind activity. The mind makes up stories about us. It makes up stories about who we are. It makes up stories about there being another person. It makes up stories about who other people are, and it keeps us all separate and limited. And so there's just this people that are interested. There's just this invitation and opportunity to, who am I beyond my stories and ideas of who I think I am? And the more we start to scratch away, like a scratch card, scratch away, and something else is revealed underneath, we start to see our true nature really starting to come through a lot more. And we're a lot more self-expressed. And so one of the things for me was I had a story that I can't contact people that I haven't spoken to in years. It's just, I can't do that. How can I do that? They'll be asking me what I want from them. I don't know but I had this story that I can't do that. Or someone that's worked with me already, or someone I've sent an email to and they haven't responded. That was my big one. They haven't responded.
Yeah.
So I started to test this theory out because you got to test it for yourself. No one can tell when you're in the story and the lie and the belief. No one can tell you any different. You've got to see this for yourself as not being true and test it out. Play with it. Experiment. Don't take my word for it. And so I experimented. And I remember that there was a woman that had sent me an email. I sent an email to, and I hadn't heard from her. It's been months. And I was afraid because I have this story now that you can't contact people because they haven't responded, and I don't want to be seen to be bothering people. I had this, don't bother people. That's another part of the story. It's all part of that same story. Don't bother people. And I sent her an email and I said, hi, sent you an email. She was interested in my service. And then I sent her an email and then she didn't get back to me. So I kind of reached out to her again. I just wanted to know if there's anything I could support you with. And she said, oh, thank you for calling me out of the blue like that. Thank you for calling me. I really, I can't remember what it was. I've been so busy and I couldn't find your email. And I was just like, wow, that story was just bubble was burst on that. And we had conversations and I was able to serve her and support her. And then she said, I'd really like to continue this with you. How can I work with you? And I've had many of those. And I think one of the things I really want to add to this as well, one of the things that I really strongly believe as a practitioner and coach, building your practice to the next level, wishing that your practice will get bigger or better or what you want it to be, develop to what you want it to be, doesn't change anything. I used to sit and wait and think, the deeper I understand this understanding, the more, I'm going to attract what I want. The only thing that changes things is action.
Yeah.
And conversations. Conversations is part of action.
Yeah.
And that's been one of my biggest takeaways. And that's what I'm supporting this morning, coaching coaches to see that for themselves, to get past that fear, that made up story that they've made up in their mind, that is creating their fear, it's creating their anxiety, it's keeping them stuck. It's all okay in the conversation. It's great. I love when we have stuff like that. I want people to be honest. Don't need to be afraid of any of this.
Right.
Don't need to be ashamed of any of it. It's normal. We're human beings. Had it all. I continue to have it all, but I don't take, like you said, I don't take it as serious as I used to.
Yeah.
So I have more freedom with my humanness.
Yeah, what's coming up for me is being free to be and free to act. And the act part there has an emphasis. There is a story that Wena Erhard used to share, which I really like, and I found it ties in very nicely to what you said towards the end. He said he has this one spiritual exercise that he likes to do with people. He says, find a field or a mountain, go somewhere where you have a lot of space and you go there by night and you look at the stars and you tell them all your wishes, all your dreams, your commitments, and what you think is going to happen and all of that. And then wait for the response of the stars. And he's like, it gets people very quickly to the realization that nothing's going to happen unless they move and act. So thank you for sharing that. And Jack, we're at the time that we scheduled. So I don't want to hold you for any longer, but thank you so much for what you shared. I think that is a helpful piece of wisdom that we explored today for anyone and also for practitioners, or maybe in particular for people in the profession that we are in or similar professions. Yeah, asking you, like when people want to explore more of what you just shared, they're curious about where they find you, curious about your work, how can they get a hold of you?
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure being here. Just wanted to say one more thing I think is really important. And as coaches and practitioners and therapists in the world making a difference, one of the biggest pieces for me, apart from what I've just shared, is finding different ways to be of service to people. How can I be of service to people? If you want to change your business or your practice, how can I serve first? How can that be the most important thing that I do? Finding different and creative ways to do that. Having conversations with people. That has changed my whole practice and the way that I work with people. And it's fun. I'm enjoying it. It's so creative and I'm having so much fun with that. So I wanted to say that because when we put that first and we suspend our needs, suspend our beliefs and our own needs, or we serve ourselves first and then be of service to the people that are in front of us, really being present and available to them and listening. That can change people's lives, just listening on a deep level. They've never been listened to that before. A leader or a coach, a change maker in the world, or whoever you're working with. I work with psychiatrists, I work with therapists, I work with doctors, I work with clinical people in the NHS. We forget as coaches, therapists and practitioners that people aren't listened like that in the world. So when they find someone that does listen to them truly, they feel really seen and heard and held. And I see my role as loving people. I'm here to love people and bring compassion to the spaces and places where there are any. So I'll end there. If anyone wants to get in contact with me, they can contact me on my email address. They can contact me by email. And I'd love to have a conversation. And I'd love to hear what's resonating for you in our conversation that myself and Moritz have had. What's resonating, what's landing, what's different from what you've heard before. And leave a comment or reach out to myself or Moritz.
Yes. Wonderful. Jacquie, thank you so much. And as you just shared, like if you liked what you saw, if you liked what you heard, please leave a comment. Let us know what it is, what resonates. Reach out to Jacquie, and thank you so much. Thank you, Jacquie.
Thank you.